Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're going to do something special. We're going to look at some woodwind and brass fingering diagrams that have been created by Michael McClennan. And these are really cool, and I want to show you where you can get them, how to use them, how to install them, all that stuff. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to take you to Michael's website. It's michaelmcclennan.com, and I'll put a link in the description and all that stuff, and a link on my website as well, eventually. And when you get to his website, what you're looking for is the Finale resources here. Now, there are also some Keyboard Maestro macros and some Smart Shape libraries, which are also really cool. So particularly if you're on a Mac, you can use these Keyboard Maestro macros. But today we're going to look at the Finale fingering diagrams. And when you click on that link, you get to this page. And you'll see that he's got a bunch of different fingerings for these instruments right now: flute, clarinet, saxophone, oboe, bassoon, trumpet, euphonium, French horn, and tuba. But he will be adding to these eventually, and I believe he will also be adding extended techniques for these instruments eventually as well, which is really cool. Now, these are for sale, so you can just click on any of these and buy that one, or I believe there's a package. Yeah, you can get the full band bundle for $20. Just add it to the cart, and we can see that he's got recorder and penny whistle are up next, so there you go. All right, so that's where you can find them. Again, link is in the description. And once you do that, you are going to get a folder that looks like this on your computer. It's called Finale Fingering Diagrams, and in that folder you'll see a little YouTube link to his explanation for these fingerings. And there's two folders for diagrams in 25 and diagrams in 26, Finale 25 and Finale 26. It's important that you use the correct version of the fingering diagrams for the version that you have of Finale. If you have Finale 26, you can just completely ignore these diagrams for 25. And when you open up one of these folders, you'll see that all those instruments, bassoon, clarinet, all these things, and it'll have a 26 after it just to indicate that that's what you're dealing with. And within each of these folders, there's two files. There's a fingering file, 26, bassoon fingering 26. Now, this is a normal Finale file that will have these fingerings in them already. But there's also a bassoon library 26 file. Now, these are two different things, so you just have to be aware of what you're doing. I'm going to show you first how to load the libraries, and you can see that for each of these instruments, there's a regular Finale file and a library file, and a regular Finale file and a library file. So what we're going to want to do, or the first thing I'm going to do really, is I'm going to take all of the library files and put them in the appropriate place. And one thing that we need to know how to do in order to do that is to know where to put those library files. So I'm just going to show you something in the Finale preferences. Under the folders section here, it'll show you the pathways to different files that Finale uses. And there's one here called libraries, and you'll see that there's this path here. So this is the path that you're going to want to follow to find out where to put these libraries. So you can see library, application support, make music 20, Finale 26, library. So that's where I'm going to go. And I've already opened that window. I'm just going to drag it over here. You can see that right there. And the other thing that I've done is that you don't necessarily need to drag in the regular Finale files into the library folder. I just want to copy these library files into that folder. And so what I've done is I've actually just created a second folder here and just copied all of just the library files for Finale 26 into this folder. So you can see all the bassoon library 26, clarinet library 26, just like that. Just a little bit of house maintenance here to make this a little bit easier. And so what I can do is just drag this folder with all the fingering diagram libraries into my main library folder, and you'll see it appear here. And now when we open up that the path to the library in Finale, it will take us to those libraries. So let's actually go ahead and do that. And we're going to go into the Finale file here. And if we go into the File menu, what we're looking for is Load Library. And this will take you through that path that I just showed you. It's going through all of those things: application support, Finale 26, etc. And we're getting to this folder here, the fingering diagrams, which you just saw me add to that main libraries folder. And now you can see that all of these libraries exist. Now, one tip I'll give you here is that it's best to only load the libraries that you absolutely need. These libraries are rather large, and they will take up a lot of space in your articulation selection dialog box. So, I recommend if you only need one or two of these, just load one or two of these into your files. In this case, I'm using alto sax here, so the only one I'm going to want to deal with is the saxophone library. So I'm just going to choose the saxophone library here and choose open. And it will appear like nothing happened, but in fact, the saxophone fingering library has been loaded into this file. Now, these libraries are done as articulations. So what we're going to need to do is go into the articulation tool. And we're going to pretend like we're adding an articulation, because this is what we're doing. And what we get is the articulation selection dialog box. And if we scroll down to the bottom, past our regular articulations, what we'll eventually get to is the new articulations that have been added to this file. This is the new articulation saxophone library. So you can see all of these fingering diagrams are now here. And so now you can kind of see with the way that these are built, there's sort of a reference pitch on top and the fingering diagram on the bottom. So it makes it a little bit easier to find within this articulation selection window. And actually, if this is even too small, you can use one of these buttons over here to increase the size to make this even easier to find. So I'm looking at this file, and the first note I clicked here was a D. So what I'm going to do is find the D here, and that's the one I want to select. And then we just select it, and we can add it. And I can do it again on the next D. Again, scroll down here, find the D. There we go. And then we'll add the A. And let's see, there we go. And you know, it's pretty easy to add these in, and I can keep going here a little bit, but let me just stop here for a second just so you can kind of get a look at what this is. So I'm going to zoom in way far, and now you can see that you've got your saxophone fingering diagrams here, and the appropriate fingerings are selected for those particular notes. Now there's a couple really cool things going on with these articulations. If you kind of select the articulations and press the F key, essentially what you're doing is, let's select them again, press the F key. Essentially what you're doing is you're flipping the articulation, but Michael's done a really creative thing here where the flipped articulation is a completely different symbol, and it's just a reference pitch symbol. So this is really neat. So now you can actually confirm that what you have as that fingering diagram is matching what's in the score. So you can see that my D matches my D, my A, etc. And then when you've confirmed it, you know, just press the F key again, and it will flip back to the fingering diagrams. There is some issues on some Macintosh computers where the F key does take a long time. Even on mine, it's a little bit delayed. You can kind of see that it takes a second to flip. But the other way to flip them is just to kind of drag them, and you'll end up with the reference pitch. And again, just always undo will bring you back to where you are. All right, and then maybe let's just put in a couple more here. We'll find the B. There it is, the B natural. And one little tip about this here is that if you have repeated notes, there's an interesting thing you can do where you can use the filter. So I'm just going to choose Edit Filter and select None. And because these are articulations, if I just check the articulations here and make a partial selection, what I can do is just copy or just drag that over to the next beat so that we get the B there. And again, the A repeats, so I don't even need to go through that articulation window. I can just kind of do this and copy the articulation, right? I don't have a G, so I'm going to have to add a new G here. There it is. And again, with the filter, just copy and paste into the next one. I don't think I have an F sharp yet, so we can do that one. There we go. And again, just copy and paste. Twinkle, twinkle, little star makes a good exercise for this. And we'll just find the E. And there it is. And again, just copy and paste. And then I can find my D again over here and just copy and paste that to that note as well. Again, with the filter, I'm only copying the articulations here. So that's why this is able to do this without changing the rhythm of the pitch or anything like that. So kind of a really quick way to do this. And now you can see that you've got this first line with the appropriate saxophone fingerings. And this is great for kids just learning the saxophone or clarinet or flute or whatever instrument it is that you're dealing with. All right, so that's one way to do it. That's using the articulation libraries, loading the library and doing it like this. It's pretty nifty to do it like that. One other thing I want to mention, these are really built to be put below the staff, but if you really, really, really want to have them above the staff, there's something that you can do within the articulation designer. If you just double click on one of these, The way that he's got these set up is he's got the main symbol set to the reference pitch here. I don't know if you can see that, and the flipped symbol set to the actual diagram. We can reverse these by switching these two things here. So when placed above, use the flipped. When placed below, use the main. And when you do that, you'll see that this will kind of get reversed and kind of not in a great position. But ultimately, you can kind of drag those up above the staff. If you really, really want to put these above the staff, that's how you would end up doing that. They're designed out of the box to be used under the staff, which I think is probably more likely what you want to see anyway. But it is possible to get them above the staff. Otherwise, you can't actually do that. In their natural state, if you try and drag them above, they will always stay with that other symbol, and you can't actually get the other symbol without doing some weird things with the positioning, like putting it all the way down here. So that's just a little trick to that if you need that. Now, there's one other way to use these diagrams. So I'm just going to go back into this file, which is a duplicate of the file I just have. And these, this file doesn't have these articulations loaded in yet. You can see that the fingerings don't exist at the bottom of my articulation selection here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use those files that he provided you as well. So let's go into saxophone, and instead of dealing with the library file, I'm actually going to use the saxophone fingering file. Now this is a regular Finale file, so we can just open it up. And we'll get another file here. This is what this looks like. This basically has all of the notes with all of the fingering diagrams underneath them. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you can see that that's exactly what's going on. Now, the other way to use this is to open up this file and just copy and paste the fingerings into your file. Now, I showed you how to do this basically before with the edit filter, and that's exactly what I'm going to do again. I'm just going to make sure that my edit filter is on. If I can get there, yep, use filter is on. And so I'm just going to select this measure with the D here, copy, and again just select the first note here and paste, and you'll see that the D fingering gets put below the D, and then I can actually just select this one again and paste again, and then find the A over here, copy, go over here, paste, go over here, paste. We can find the B natural, which is this one, copy, go over here, paste, paste. Now I don't even have to go into the other file because I know that the A is right there. Copy, paste, etc., etc. So this is actually another way to do this, and it might actually be slightly faster. What's happening when you do this is that because these articulations are unique, in other words, the articulation exists in this file here, but not this file. You're basically copying over the articulation, and as you copy over every articulation, it gets added to the library of articulations. So now if I were to actually go into my library here and scroll down, what you'll see is just those three articulations that I used so far, D, A, and B, have been copied over into the articulation selection tool. As soon as I copy over another one, let's copy over the G, copy, paste. Now that one actually becomes available in the articulation selection box as well. So you could, theoretically just select that one and add it to there as well. So this is sort of an alternate way to use this. You don't have to load the library. You can just open up the files that are provided, and just with the filter, just copy and paste the articulations from that file into your file, and you'll basically get the same result. Now, just a couple other things I want to point out. I'm going to open this window again. I'm going to go into this third file I have here, and I'm just going to show you a couple things. I've actually put in all of these diagrams into a B-flat concert scale, and I just wanted to show you a few things about this. The first thing is, if you are going to be using this in a score, and I don't really know why you'd want to do this, but maybe you're doing some full band exercises and you want to have a score of your exercise, and then each part has the diagrams, etc. So you can see that, your oboe part has just that line with the oboe fingering. The bassoon has just the bassoon line with the bassoon fingering. It is possible to do this. The one thing I will say, though, is that absolutely make sure that you're displaying in transposed pitch, because if you display in concert pitch and start looking at these fingerings, Let's look at this clarinet fingering, for example. If I were to just flip this articulation here, let's see if we can do this. If I were to flip that, you'll see that it says C, because this is a concert C, right? It's a concert B flat, but it's a C for the clarinet. So this is the C fingering, right? So you almost definitely want to make sure that you're in transposed pitch if you're going to do something like this, because this obviously makes a lot more sense. So that's the first thing I want to point out. The second thing, just have a look at these articulations just to see how beautiful they are. I mean, Michael did an incredible job designing these. I'll just zoom in even a little bit further. You can kind of see the flute diagram there. This is what the oboe diagram looks like, the clarinet. We've got the alto sax, which you've seen. Actually, all the saxes are the same. So that's what the saxophones look like. This crazy bassoon diagram. I mean, looking at this, it just makes me wonder how anybody actually plays the bassoon, but that is another story altogether. I mean, he's even got like half fingerings here. I mean, it's just so impressive what he managed to do here. And of course, the brass fingerings are much simpler. They're just kind of 3 circles, either not filled out or filled out, so you can kind of see what's going on here. Now, the other thing I want to point out is that when you do something like this, so obviously I've had to import the libraries for the flute, oboe, clarinet, saxophone, bassoon, and all the brass, horn, trumpet, euphonium, and tuba. And when you do that into a single file, your articulation selection dialog box does get pretty unwieldy. In fact, if we scroll down, we'll see that there's just fingerings for days. I mean, there is a lot going on here. But what is nice is that, let me just zoom out this window a little bit. What's nice is that he did add some signposts here, so you can see that there's this big thing that says flute with a right arrow. So everything to the right is flute, and if you go down a little bit farther, here's the end of it, flute to the left, flute to the right, and then the next one is oboe. So it does make it a little bit easier to navigate, so you can find the instrument and the fingering that you're looking for. And just to kind of finish this off a little bit, we can go in here, and so I didn't put the trumpet ones in, so just to show you this, we're looking for the trumpet C, so we'll go down here, bassoon, French horn, single double, trumpet, and we need the C, which is here, and we can add the C there, and then we just add the D. I won't go through all of this just so you get an idea. Again, we're just looking for those signposts. We find the trumpet, and we're looking for the D below the staff, and there it is, and so you can kind of see how that will work with that. Again, it does get pretty unwieldy. This articulation selection dialog box gets really, really large, which is again why I mentioned at the beginning that it's probably best just to load the ones you absolutely need. Now again, I don't know necessarily why you'd want to have something like this with a full score with all these fingerings, but it is entirely possible. And one more little nifty shortcut about this. See, you can see I've got a B flat concert scale followed by a C concert scale, and I haven't done the fingerings here, and then E flat concert scale and everything. This is actually kind of, I mean, it is pretty tedious to put these in one at a time, right? But one little trick you can do is if you're using that articulation filter, you could actually just copy, the very first note. You know that C is going to match the first one, right? So you can actually just select the entire stack here and just options click there, and you'll get the C there. And then you can do the D, just like that. Option click so you get the D. Now this one's going to be unique because this is an E natural versus an E flat over here. So anyway, this would sort of be a quick way to copy and paste something of this nature. And again, all of these articulations, of course, show up in the linked parts, which is obviously the point. This is really where you want to see them. And even, I'm just showing you some little advanced stuff going on here. If you really want to, when you're done with all of this, what you could do is actually create a staff style to hide them in the score. Now this is a little bit tricky, so let me just show you how to do this. We're going to define a new staff style. Let's choose new. I'm going to say no articulations. And in order to do this, the articulations are not an item to display over here, so there's nothing to check or uncheck here. The way that we have to do this is actually in the alternate notation section. So just check alternate notations, go to settings, make sure that normal notation is still checked, but uncheck where it says show articulations, and we can actually put it in the other layers too, so that we're never showing articulations. So what we're doing is we're just saying make it a normal notation without showing articulations, and click OK. And so now we just have a new staff style that's not showing articulations. And now that I've defined it, what I want to do is only apply it to the score, right? We don't want to hide the articulations in the parts. So we can just do apply staff style to current part or score. I'm going to choose that no articulations, and you'll see the articulations will go away. And of course, you can clean up your spacing because now you don't need all that extra space for all those fingering diagrams. But because I only applied it to the score, they will still appear in all of the other parts, which is really neat. So just a little kind of trick if you are going to do something like this. That's how you would sort of hide it in the score, but not in the part. All right, so that's what's going on there. Let me just go back to the score. And then let me go back to this original file here. One more thing for all of you that may be intrepid and may decide you want to create your own fingering diagrams. Maybe there's an alternate fingering that you know of that you want to do on a node, or you're doing some extended techniques or something. If you really want to get intrepid about this, there is a blank fingering here at the very end of each section of instruments. So what you can do is duplicate that blank one, and then we're going to edit it. And what we're going to end up doing is changing the flipped shape. So we're just going to choose flipped here. And this will bring up the shape selection. And because I duplicated it in the articulation selection dialog box, it also duplicates both of those characters, or both of those shapes basically, in the shape selection. So this last one here is going to be the new shape that's being used for this duplicated articulation. And then with in the shape selection dialog box, we choose edit to get into this dreaded shape designer. And you can see that the articulation is here. It is a shape in the shape designer. And what we can do is something really interesting with this pointer tool here is we can just kind of click any of these elements, and you can see that each one will get highlighted individually, even like the half a circle there. If you click very carefully, you can get any of these things here. And then all you have to do is just select one, go into Shape Designer, and where it says Fill, you'll see that it's checked white, but if you check black, you can make that a closed circle. And then you can choose another one and go to Fill and Black and make that a closed circle. I have no idea what I'm doing with these fingerings, so I'm just creating something random just to show you how this can be done. And basically I've just created my own custom fingering in the Shape Designer. Click OK, and now this new shape is being used for this new articulation. You press Select, and it's using that shape, and OK, and you'll see that you have that new shape, and then press Select. And then when you flip it, you'll see that you will get the new custom fingering that you just created. So if you're really feeling intrepid and want to try that, you can do that. It just takes a little of a dive into the Shape Designer, but that's exactly how you would do that. All right, and I think that's it. Again, this is a really cool thing that Michael's built. I mean, this took a ton of work to do. I mean, there's just so much involved with designing these shapes. There's a ton of stuff involved getting the positions correct. So, you know, kudos to him for doing something like this. It really was a fascinating project. And, you know, I commend him on the effort. And if you're at all in need of these diagrams, I encourage you to go to his website. Again, www.michaelmcclennan.com. Go to Finale Resources, Finale Fingering Diagrams, and definitely buy these. They're well worth the money. He spent a lot of time putting these together, so he deserves any purchases that you make for it. So, and again, more instruments are coming, including the recorder and the penny whistle soon, apparently, and probably a lot more after that. So I'm sure these will get updated as time goes on. All right, once again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon on the next video.